From HanselMinutes.com, it's Hansel Minutes, a weekly discussion with web developer and technologist Scott Hanselman. This is Lawrence Ryan announcing show number 255, recorded live Thursday, February 24th, 2011. Support for Hansel Minutes is provided by Telerik RAD Controls, the most comprehensive suite of components for Windows Forms and ASP.NET web applications. Online at www.telerik.com. In this episode, Scott talks with Rune Sorensen from AppHarbor about the state of the cloud.
Hi, this is Scott Hanselman, and this is another episode of Hansel Minutes. And today, we're talking with Rune Sorensen from AppHarbor. I want to talk about these clouds and the mini clouds that are out there, particularly ones that are what I like to call opinionated clouds. And Rune works for AppHarbor. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you, Scott.
So you're running a cloud effectively, right?
Yeah, we are. We are running AppHarbor, which is basically a platform as a service, allowing developers to push their code up to us and deploy their applications in no time.
Mm-hmm. What is the difference in your mind, between a hoster, where I can just go up and find an ISP and a host and pay $5 a month, and I've got effectively a machine somewhere? I suppose it could be in the cloud, and something like Amazon or Azure or AppHarbor.
Well, basically, I think the scalability part is a big part of it. So you actually, Azure and AppHarbor EC2 is more geared towards scaling, and there's a whole experience part, especially for tools like AppHarbor and to some extent AppHarbor Azure, where we provide an additional layer of convenience to people wanting to deploy the applications.
So it's the elasticity. The idea that I'm going to make my little application available, and if I become the next Twitter, my hoster will expand.
Yeah, you'll be ready for that.
When they say that, do they mean literally that it will just work? It'll just expand? That I could sleep well at night and wake up in the next morning and find out that I got on Slashdot and 1 million hits, and I didn't have to do anything? Or does that kind of scale and elasticity happen slowly over a period of weeks or months?
Well, it really depends on kind of service. With EC2, for instance, you actually have to purchase additional instances and make sure your platform can actually. It basically just has the capability of scaling, but you have to do something for it for yourself and set up the whole system. As for Azure, you actually have to do a lot of work in order to scale up or down. Whereas I guess what we're trying with AppHarbor is to make this as easy as for people as possible. Just basically going in for a user interface and adding a couple of additional applications.
Where do you think that hosts fit in this new world? I mean, you're saying platform as a service, you're saying cloud, but you're not saying that you're a host. What about all those hosts out there, those $5 hosts, the GoDaddies and things like that, as well as the expensive hosts where they'll give you your own virtual machine, single virtual machine at their hosting provider? Where do they go in this new world order?
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't really know. I think if they can keep up with the pace and basically provide somewhat the same kind of experience to people, they'll be good. But if they keep on just offering a $5 hosting plan with FTP upload, well, I don't see much room for them in this world, because we're going a lot towards service and providing people with exactly the tools and the services they need, and I don't really think that a host like GoDaddy provides that.
Mm-hmm. What is Heroku, and what did they do? What did they introduce to the development environment, to the community, that got people so excited that others would emulate them?
Yeah, well, basically Heroku is built on a simple deployment mechanism where you push your code to Heroku with Git and with no code modifications, and Heroku just magically deploys your application. So it's also an open platform where multiple services are readily available, and you can just add those with a click in your web interface, or using the Heroku console, which is a command line interface for Heroku. I guess basically the convenience and seeing that you can get your app up and running within 15 to 30 seconds is what's getting people really excited. And the fact that you can go in and you can see, all right, if I wanted, I could go up to 20 dynos. This is what Heroku calls it. I can scale up to 20 dynos if I want. If I want more redundancy, if I want more horizontal scalability, or I could go with a huge server that will allow me to service my customers' needs. I think what Heroku really is primarily the ease of use and the open platform. The fact that you don't have to change anything to deploy to the cloud.
So it seems to me like the difference really is that on a classic host, you're doing the build locally, you're doing the tests locally, and you're pushing the binaries and configuring effectively a system, but not necessarily a system that knows about applications. In a regular ISP, there's a computer out there somewhere, but it doesn't necessarily know I'm going to deploy an app, and I have to deploy the binaries. But in these new models, I'm deploying the source, they're doing the build, they're running the tests, and they are not thinking about themselves, those endpoints. They're not thinking about themselves as a computer. They are literally an application server. They're opinionated. They're assuming that I am here to receive an app, and I know how your workflow should be. So then they're kind of imposing the same convention over configuration that you see in Rails apps and now in ASP.NET MVC applications. So I mean, opinionated host is kind of what this feels like to me.
Yeah, it's definitely like so, and basically AppHarbor is also conventional configuration. We make a lot of assumptions about people's code when we receive it, because we also build it and run people's tests. And basically, to make that happen, you have to tell people, all right, you have to, in your repository, you only have a single solution file. If you want to configure somehow, so you get the ability to have multiple solution files, well, then you should call one of them AppHarbor, and this will be the one we use to build. And the basic thing works by, all right, in a single solution file, I can only have one web project, so we know which one to build, which one to publish to our servers. And basically, I think this is a logical setup in a lot of ways. Why would you want to deploy an application with multiple websites? Or you might have a good reason to, but it's not really the common case. We're very application centric as to server or capacity centric, if you might.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting that even though you're doing a .NET platform as a service, that you are opinionated enough that you decided that Git, the source control system, was how you were going to do things. You didn't use Mercurial, which tends to be considered more friendly on Windows platforms, or TFS. What was it about Git that was so compelling that you felt that it was important to kind of base your entire platform as a service on it as a source control system?
Oh, well, basically for us, Git is just a start. It was the natural start for us because we all love Git and really appreciate it and think. Well, the most important thing for us is that you push your code with some kind of source control system. But obviously we want to make it as convenient as possible, so we will add Mercurial support very soon. Actually, we already finished it, just putting the final touches on it. So this is not a holy war for Git. it's more just our preference, and naturally this was what we created first.
I see. So it was just the proof of concept, but the platform itself isn't dependent on it in some way.
No. And basically, I think what's also important to know is that when we're building AppHarbor or in the initial phase of it, we mainly seek to solve our own problems in deploying. And this was really how the platform has matured over time. And honestly, we haven't used Mercurial for this thing, so it wasn't really a problem. Obviously now, as we're seeing a lot of users wanting Mercurial, we want to implement it, and it's our most requested feature, and we're really looking forward to providing it to our users.
It would be interesting if I could commit to Codeplex, then log into AppHarbor and have you grab from the trunk automatically.
Yeah, actually, we thought about this pull-based approach, where you specify some repo somewhere and say, all right, I want to pull from there and deploy right now. This branch or tip or whatever. Actually, we thought a lot about that approach, and I think we will implement it at some point. Also, because it will actually make it easier for us to support many more ways of getting code in. Because right now we're actually doing a lot of work in order for Git to work and to receive people's code. If we could just pull in code from multiple places, it would actually make our job easier.
What is underneath it? I mean, sometimes when companies with really kind of cool and minimalist websites come out with a cool story, we have no idea what's behind it. I mean, are you two guys in a garage, or is this all built on Amazon anyway and you're hiding Amazon from us? Or where is this cloud?
Yeah, actually right now we're 3 people in an apartment office, but we're building this on Amazon EC2, and using that as our instances for instances.
Oh, interesting.
For database and stuff like that. So basically, we were entirely built on EC2. That being said, our design is actually made so that we, in the future, could provide people with hosting on, for instance, Azure, and just handle the build part on our own backend.
Okay, see that suddenly my mind just kind of opened. I just bloomed here, thinking that because right now when you go to AppHarbor.com, you see this Azure done right. It's a very provocative statement, I think, that's gotten people excited about AppHarbor because it comes out and it says something's wrong and we fixed it.
Yeah, well, basically you might say that there are certain kinks or things that should be kind of easier with Azure, and this is basically why we said it. Azure takes like two minutes to an hour to deploy sometimes. And basically we want to encourage developers to deploy often, and this shouldn't be a problem at all, and it isn't if you push with for instance Git or Mercurial, because you just push the last 5 commits you committed to master, and all right, you're set to go. So
right. Basically, what I'm hearing you say is that the cloud offering for a lot of systems is not friendly to continuous deployment. Exactly,
and it's not friendly because it takes too long time, and it's too inconvenient in a lot of ways. Basically, I also think an important thing about continuous deployment is that, or continuous integration, as we're essentially providing, is that it kind of tends to make developers create better applications because they'll be more durable. They'll work any place actually. We haven't done anything special to our build servers. Obviously, we're providing some basic libraries and stuff like that in order to build people's code. But then again, people really have to include whatever references they need and make a concise app that's not referencing local assemblies or anything. So it basically makes the application more portable. It's just that we're not trying to log in users, for instance, by making them create an Azure project or something like that, which basically logs them into this platform. We're very much about creating an open platform where people also can choose services. For instance, people can choose between MS SQL or MySQL if they want. And if they choose MySQL, they won't even be dependent on Windows capacity in the future if they want to move their apps somewhere else.
Hi, this is Scott coming to you from another place and time. Are you using agile practices to manage your software development? There's lots of tools in the market that manage the steps of a project, but most of them focus on individual roles. Get ready for a solution that caters for the success of the whole team. The guys at Telerik introduced Team Pulse. It's an agile project management tool that'll help you gather ideas, estimate, plan, track progress in a common workspace. Finally, companies, regardless of their size, can use a lightweight and convenient tool that makes all the stakeholders work as a united team, even if they're in different countries. By combining intuitive user interface and the power of Silverlight, Team Pulse removes the roadblocks that you typically face in applying Agile in an effective manner. No more lost data, no disparate systems, no lack of critical analytics regarding the health and velocity of your project. See for yourself. Get a free copy for 5 users and 1 project at Telerik.com/Team Pulse. And please do thank Telerik for supporting Hansel Minutes on their Facebook fan page, facebook.com/TLERIK. Telerik. We do appreciate it. There wouldn't be a Hansel Minutes if there wasn't Telerik helping us. Yeah, the idea also that in my mind, somehow I had assumed that there was some AppHarbor mini cloud out there in the world, but and I thought that you were tying yourself to either the mini cloud or EC2, and you were tying yourself to Git. But now I'm realizing that you've built that deployment middleware that enables continuous integration and continuous deployment, or near continuous, and the Git part is a implementation detail, and the EC2 part is an implementation detail. So you could, at some future point, we could see a TFS-based deployment on AppHarbor on Azure, or a Mercurial one on EC2, or whatever. Is that how I understand your architecture?
Exactly. Our architecture, basically, Git for us is just a controller in an MVC app. That's really how it is. And we're using a Git library locally just to handle this. But basically, we could add another controller, for instance, a Mercurial controller if we wanted, and be able to support that as well. So this is one part of the story, receiving the code. And as you said, the deployment part is another story. And it's basically built up from several pieces, and these pieces can be mixed and be for instance, the deployment mechanism, as you say, could be moved to anywhere in the world, also on your own server if you wanted at some point.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this though: you've created a company based on the opportunity that there are some speed issues with Azure as it is. What happens in 4 or 5 years when Azure moves towards a speedier Heroku-style deployment? Where is AppHarbor at that point?
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll board Microsoft at that point, but I don't know. 4 or 5 years is a long time, I guess. If Microsoft were to move to a Heroku-style deployment in 5 years, I wouldn't worry a lot at all. Because that would be extremely slow. Seriously, I think we're a quite serious player in this market already, and we'll continue to improve our platform and make what people want all the time. So this is basically how I see our future. We'll create this company bit by bit and continue to deliver excellent service. So
I'm hearing you say that there's more than enough room for another player in this space.
Definitely. The cloud is here to stay, and it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And for instance, actually we love Microsoft on this part because basically Microsoft is heavily pushing cloud services right now and pretty much gearing businesses towards moving their applications to the cloud. Which I think is to the benefit of all cloud providers. Basically, I think a lot of hosting will be made in the cloud within the next couple of years, and this will allow for a huge market with several players.
One of the things that I think is really significant about what you guys are trying to accomplish and how you're kind of changing the conversation is that the realization that the cloud is more than just scale. It's also effortless deployment, where deployment isn't an event. It's not like just as continuous integration got a lot of us to stop thinking about the build. Like we work all day and now we'll have the build. Ta-da! And now at the end of the week we'll have the deployment. For you and for systems like you, the build is no longer a problem. It's a non-issue. And now theoretically the deployment is just as trivial of an artifact.
Yeah. And basically what this allows people to do is to introduce smaller changes to their running web applications, which usually means smaller failures if something goes wrong. You don't have an iteration length of, as you say, a week or a month. You simply just introduce the change whenever you made it, and you'll see how it goes. If it's a problem, you'll roll back with a click of a button. Or you'll fix it immediately and push again. So basically, I think this is the essence of it in a lot of ways.
What happens when a deployment fails or a build fails? What happens to my application?
Nothing happens to the running application. If your build fails, you'll be able to see that in the interface. As soon as people push the code, we give people a link in the interface where they can go and see how is this build going. Basically, they can just look up on their application page on AppHarbor and see, all right, what's the status of this commit? Basically, we're tying it very much to the commit ID of the push. So people will see, all right, it's currently building. And if the build fails, it will say failed, and it won't deploy that application, obviously, because we wouldn't be able to run it. Also, if people write unit tests or integration tests somehow, we basically run those after building people's code, and if any of those fails, we won't deploy it. People will be able to go into the interface and see, all right, exactly what test would fail here. And resolve the problem, which ensures that if people write tests, they will always have code that's verified and is working as their intention is.
Am I able to? We have like the oh crap button, like the oh no something's wrong. Maybe it's functional. Maybe my tests aren't okay. I can just go back and roll back what I just did. The big Control Z for the entire site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, basically, there's a list containing the last 10 builds, and for all the builds that succeeded and where all the tests passed, you'll be able to click a deploy link, and it will be deployed within a couple of seconds.
Wow, that's pretty slick.
Yeah, it works great, and people really love this. Specifically, this part, people love the most, actually. Mm-hmm. I'm not really sure if that many people use it, but I think people like the convenience or just the safety that they know that, all right, I pushed something, it went wrong. Well, I can always roll back within seconds.
And see, that's really interesting because when I think about things like testing, and someone emailed me recently and said, why should I bother writing tests? I'm just a one-person shop. I don't want to waste time typing these tests up. I thought about all the different reasons one would argue why you should do tests. And I ended up saying that it's not about the test or having a number of tests. It's about the confidence that the tests give you to make changes.
I totally agree, yeah.
Right, and that idea that I'm not afraid of my application anymore. That's so fundamental. If you are afraid of your application, then either your code is wrong, but more likely your process is wrong. I've had that before, where I've got an application working. Well, even like my blog. My blog runs on a .NET 2 application that's 7 years old. And recently, I was a little afraid. I didn't want to change it, because I didn't want to wake the sleeping lion. But I've got a lot of tests, and I've got it in source code, and I know which one I deployed recently, and I made a pretty fundamental change, and nobody noticed. And that sense of confidence in your own application is provided to you by tests. And now we're seeing platforms extend that sense of confidence with deployment, where I can deploy something and then say, "Oh no," and undo it all the way back, like you said, 10 different builds.
Yeah. And basically, I think you're totally right about the reason why I should write tests. Basically, the confidence in it. And basically what this also gives you, actually I found myself a couple of times, because AppHarbor is running on our own platform, I found myself pushing code to our server where I didn't run the test locally, and so the test failed. Or even sometimes I use a Mac. I just changed something in a text editor and committed it and pushed it, and the test failed, or the build failed. So this is really, it really gives you another kind of flexibility. It makes you more agile, because as you say, you can trust your own code. You know how you intended it to work, and you made sure that it would always work like that.
Right. I mean, potentially this could be an excuse to be sloppy and make dangerous changes. But just like you said, let's say that we have all grabbed a file from FTP, opened it in Notepad, made a code change, and deployed it to production at some point in our lives. We're not proud of it, but it's happened. But if you have the right processes in place, then you can at least keep yourself from losing your job.
Exactly. And basically, personally, I have never found that writing tests for my projects is a waste of time. I've also always found that within a month or two after creating a project, if I didn't write tests, it would really, really slow me down. Exactly because I was so worried about if the application would work as expected, and I didn't refactor enough. Basically, what tests give you is the confidence to constantly refactor everything. So it's always neat and clean, and it just allows you to write better code, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how many years do you think until most hosters offer these kind of services, and what do you think's beyond this?
Well, first of all, I think the first step would be that other providers ran people's unit tests. Well, actually, we're the only one who does that currently. Not even Heroku is doing that, and Azure certainly aren't. What comes beyond this? Well, I think for us, it's connecting people with even more services, allowing them to use whatever database storage they want, or locking mechanism and stuff like that. I think that's our primary focus right now. Mm-hmm. What comes beyond? Well, it's a lot bigger market, I guess, and we basically have to team up in convincing people to use the cloud. Yeah,
it definitely seems like the $5 hosters can't survive, but it'll be interesting to see if the low end goes away, and what I would think of as being the high end, in the sense of not that AppHarbor would be expensive, but high end in that currently the knowledge one requires to get involved is non-trivial. You need to have an understanding of Git and source control and some basic stuff. I don't think that you'd have a lot of 12-year-olds deploying to AppHarbor, unless maybe you do.
Well, I think we see all sorts of users. Obviously, a lot of users are learning Git just to get on our platform. But a lot of people aren't even used to using a version control system. Actually, I'm quite happy if people are learning a version control system in order to use our platform rather than not using it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, obviously, we want to provide people with as much convenience as possible while still somewhat feasible. But yeah, there is definitely people right now, at least, people have to have a certain degree of interest in our product. They actually want to go and explore it a bit and try. Oh, can I do this? Can I do that? And basically, we haven't documented that much. We have a small knowledge base where people can just see basic information. But we really encourage people to try it out and just explore it. Because this is also the way that we mature as a platform by listening to our customers' needs, and not foreseeing a lot of future problems. We solve actual problems.
Very cool. Well, I wish you all the best, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and explain to us how things are changing in the cloud and in the deployment space.
Sure. Thanks a lot for allowing me to join you.
All right. Well, we'll put links to AppHarbor.com and information about how their stuff works, as well as other clouds, up on HanselMinutes.com. Thanks so much for joining us. This has been another episode. We'll see you again next week.